Hey guys, welcome to Dine with Done YouTube. Let's make some rack of lamb. I remember the first time I made rack of lamb, I went on YouTube, and that's where I saw it, the perfect rack of lamb. And from this point forward, rack of lamb would be one of my favorites. So thank you, Dishes and Fishes. I actually have that video linked in the bio. Now, there's a couple ways you can go about cooking these. You can smoke these, grill these in individual chops. You can butter baste these, then roast them in the oven. You can serve these with a homemade tzatziki or plenty of other sauces. Today we're going salt, pepper, rosemary, garlic. In my opinion, this is the ultimate flavor combination for rack of lamb. Now, when it comes to rack of lamb, I recommend finding yourself a good quality butcher. They'll be able to set you up with exactly what you need because there's a few different types of lamb. There's grass-fed and there's grain-fed. There's grass-fed then grain-finished. The grass-fed will taste a little more gamey. The grain-fed will taste a little more mild. Honestly, I love both. I find as long as I go to my local butcher, it's fresh and it's gonna taste amazing either way. Today we're going with some local lamb from my friends at the butcher shop. And I'm just gonna remove it from the package, pat it dry. We're gonna do both sides and we're gonna lightly score the fat cap. This will create more surface area for all the flavors to penetrate deep into the meat. But do not, I repeat, do not trim off this fat cap. That's where all the flavor is. Then we're gonna make our rosemary garlic marinade. We're just gonna roughly chop up some garlic. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be super minced up either. The little chunks of garlic roast up so nicely and taste so good on the rack of lamb. We also got some rosemary. We're gonna roughly chop that up. I like to go a little finer on this one. We're gonna add that to our little bowl along with some olive oil, give it a little mix, let those flavors infuse, get to know each other. We're gonna add a little bit of that oil to the rack of lamb along with some kosher salt, black pepper, and we're gonna lay down that marinade. Then we're gonna flip it over and repeat. Now, lamb can actually handle quite a bit of salt, but I like to add some smoked finishing salt right at the end before I'm ready to serve, so I'm not gonna go too crazy. But I am gonna layer on that marinade, which will become a crust later on. We're gonna let this sit in the fridge for a few hours, and in the meantime, we're gonna make some roasted potatoes. We're using some baby fingerlings. We're gonna hit them with some duck fat. We're gonna hit them with a savory wood-fired garlic barbecue rub. Some more rosemary to complement our lamb, some fresh thyme. Use as much or as little as you desire. We're gonna give it a good mix, and it's into the oven at 350 for about 45 minutes, and we're gonna flip them halfway. Now, this is where things get interesting. I'm actually gonna remove our marinade, but don't worry, the flavors have penetrated deep into the meat. To save all that good stuff, I'll tell you why in a minute. We wanna give this a good sear. You can do this in a pan, but today I'm gonna do this over some charcoal. It's my personal favorite. Now, if we were to leave the rosemary and garlic on, it would just burn, and we wouldn't get a proper sear. And you could just fire this right into the oven after marinating, but just trust me on this little extra step. Now we're gonna add our rosemary garlic back on, and as it finishes cooking, it's gonna turn to a nice herby crust. Now I'm just gonna put this in the oven at 375 until it hits an internal temperature of around 135, 137. Then we're gonna remove it and let our rack of lamb rest. And while it rests, it's gonna continue to cook. And once it hits 140, it's time to carve this thing up. Look at how great that crust turned out. Now this is the moment of truth. Now when you're cooking your rack of lamb, cook until your desired doneness. My goal here was a nice medium rare. It was pretty spot on, but I want you to know if I can do this, you can do this. I'm not a chef. I'm just a guy who likes to cook at home and in his backyard. And if this is your first time cooking a rack of lamb, just get a thermometer. I got this at Walmart for like 10 bucks. It works just as good as some of my expensive ones. And if you're cooking a nice piece of meat, well worth it. For presentation purposes, you can serve this up just like this with those potatoes. Or this is what I usually do. I just carve them all up, line them up, and I like to hit them with a little smoked finishing salt. Serve them up, and whoever you're sharing these with will guaranteed be impressed. One rack is usually perfect for two people. And like I said, if I could pull this off, you can pull this off. The first rack I ever cooked was very much enjoyed by my wife and I, and has been one of our favorites ever since. All right, there you have it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed your rack of lamb.